Hello, how are you, Mark?
Hi, Avery. I'm doing good. Doing real good. How about yourself?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm just so excited to have you do this interview with me because I think you have an amazing story and I'm just thrilled that you're sharing it with everybody.
Well, it's been a tough road. Um, I can't say I remember most of it, but you know, it's good to tell because people do need to hear that you can find yourself through the other side of that tunnel, and I'm living proof of that. So I'm more than happy to help. If I can help save a life, I'm all over that. You know.
Wonderful. Mark, could you share a little bit about your culture with us?
Well, that's interesting. I'm first generation here in the United States. My family's from Chihuahua, Mexico. I've got two older brothers. I've got two younger brothers. We are we're a Mexican family, and all that comes with that. We've got a huge family and a very loving, tight knit group of folks that, starting from my father, my grandmother, my two of my uncles, three of my aunts, has turned the Hinojos family into, while we're on multiple continents now, we've expanded, that's for sure. So it's been a great run, learning from my aunts and uncles and my grandmother and all the things that they had to go through just to make it here to the United States and then become citizens and make a life for us all.
I love that. Would you share a little bit about your childhood?
Wow, so long ago. Um, it's interesting. I never knew my mother, my real mother, I should say. My father raised myself and my two older brothers all by himself. Um, of course, he had the help of my grandmother and two of my youngest aunts. So they were the family, the nuclear family, as they called it back then, that I knew.
Mm.
That's all I knew. I think that not knowing my real mother until I was about in fifth or sixth grade, it was easy for me you know, to learn. I didn't miss her like my older brothers did. They knew her.
Mm.
My brothers are spaced 2 years apart from me, so they were able to have that bonding time. And because I never had a chance to bond with her, she left when I was almost two, I believe. It wasn't really an issue for me, not having a mother. That was just how life was. Um, it's interesting that when you asked this question, I thought immediately of being in church with my dad. We'd go every Sunday, being Catholic and Mexican, of course, and we'd sit there and all the stories that were told at Sunday school and through the Bible. It just made sense to me that my dad was God. And in a kid's mind, that just all came together because all the things they said that God provides for you and everything there is well, yeah, that's what my dad does. So he must be God. It's a funny anecdote, but I laugh about that throughout my entire life. Um, so it was really cool. My childhood was awesome. I had my two older brothers. They beat me up constantly, but that's what boys do. Um, I was and still am very close to my second oldest brother. Um, all told, growing up in the desert, I lived in San Bernardino County. Uh, no real boundaries down there. It was spectacular. We were. I learned to ride a motorcycle before I learned to ride a bicycle. So we were out on our motorcycles as soon as we could, right after school. Every break we had, we my dad gave us just open boundaries. He gave us specific rules two times a year. One at Christmas, he'd set us all down together, tell us, okay, these are the new rules. This is what we're going to be doing moving forward this year. And then he'd set us down at our birthdays and say, okay, you're now X years old, and this is what I expect from you. You go outside of those lines, I'm going to have to, beat you. And back then, parents, it was tough love, especially growing up without a mother. He had to. We were hell on wheels, I got to tell you. I don't know how he did it by himself, dealing with all that. Just interesting time. But wandering around the desert, out on foot with our basset hound. He was always with us, hunting rabbits, and we'd be gone for 2 or 3 days at a time, fishing, rock climbing, you name it. And as long as we were back at the time and the date that we were supposed to be back, and we told our dad, then he was cool with it. That freedom and the no boundaries would later, in retrospect, of course, would later turn into the beginning of my drinking and using, and but none of this was caused by a poor childhood or bad upbringing. My father, when he had to spank us, it really, the old saying, it's gonna hurt me more than it hurts you. He would get so upset when he'd have to do it. He would, when he would cry, that would hurt more than him taking the belt to us, because it was just horrible to see him so disappointed. And it was just it was a great time. My dad was a hard working man. He's been incredibly loving, and even to this day, he's still a huge part of my life. He's just a great guy.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it really is.
So, Mark, what led you to start drinking? Because I know that you shared with me that you started at a fairly young age.
Yeah, that's a tough one. I can't. It's been so long. I can't really say, okay, it was this date and this specific time. And I I did some thinking about this, and even though I can't really say when, um, I do have an idea on this. My father finally got remarried to a wonderful woman. She would become such an important person in my life. I never really knew my real mother. Um, my new mother brought in so much love and joy to our family. I never seen anything like that, because we were alone. It was just us boys and my dad. These were just incredible times for me, as I remember, and even more so as I got older and look back on those times. She and my dad even gave me a new baby brother. That was huge for me. I was no longer the baby. And, you know, I I welcomed that little guy with even more love than I can imagine, than I got from everybody that I knew growing up. Things were perfect. My little brother and I spent a ton of time together, and he's about 10 years younger than me. I was in fifth grade, I believe, actually third grade when he was born, but I think it was about fifth grade, sixth grade. I'm thinking, going through life, things are perfect. I'm playing football after school, having a good time. I run home so I can hang out with my little brother, take him to get ice cream. It's something you'd see out of a movie, if we had movies back then. Everything was black and white still. Another joke. But a few years after he was born, something shifted that just changed the course of my life forever. I remember coming home from football practice one day, and there was my new mother packed up in her car with my little brother strapped into a baby seat, and she was packed to the gills, and they were getting a divorce just like that. She was gone. Um, I had no idea what happened, but I was just destroyed. I lost the only mother that I ever knew, and my baby brother. I was devoted to this kid and to her, with no explanations, just gone. That's when I think I can point to when I started getting drunk and smoking weed, because it wasn't because I was rebelling. Um, I I just didn't know how else to express my feelings, and it seemed too difficult to talk to my dad about these things, because, how can a fifth grader really express what's going on without understanding what's going on? So, I just went on the best I could, and so fifth grade, sixth grade, that's when I started drinking.
So you'd also mentioned that you had started noticing that you felt a little different, like maybe you were hearing some voices and you were having some delusions and maybe some paranoia at a young age. Do you remember when those symptoms started?
Well, it's interesting. And again, I know a lot of this in retrospect, because as I'll tell you later in my story, I went back to school to understand the psychology of addiction and everything that came with that. So my voices and everything didn't start until I was well into my 30s.
Okay.
which is kind of off the spectrum there, what we anticipate. This schizophrenia kind of starts to hit us in our, mid-teens, I guess, through the early 20s, maybe late 20s. But, you know, as I've always been in life, I'm an outlier. So things are different for me, and I'm cool with that. Um, yeah, uh, that's about when I think, things started feeling a little bit strange. And the cool thing about it, I believe for most time, I knew that some of the things I was seeing, just it's impossible they could have been there. So most of the things I was hearing, it's just your mind talking to you, telling you not to do these stupid things and just move on with it. It didn't affect me. I had no idea that it was an issue until much, much later in my life.
So when did you start noticing that it was an issue?
Well, I would have to preface that with, I think realizing that I had a drinking problem before um, these voices started really chiming in. Wasn't until my 40s, mid 40s, um, into, that's when things all started coming to a head, so to speak. Um, I started to lose focus and control of my professional life. I I was in finances. I was a mortgage banker. Made more money than any young person should have made, and I did that for over 20 years. Um, so things started crumbling, up and through about the age 45. Um, that's when things really hit the wall.
So did you lose your job through this?
Yeah, well, I don't know if most folks, well, I'm sure a lot of folks will remember that are going to be listening to this, but we had the financial markets meltdown in 2008, 2009, and the hardest hit of that was the mortgage banking. And with that, I lost my company. I was in charge of managing about 45 mortgage brokers at the time. We had support staff. I mean, there must have been at least 100 people at one time. We had over 200 people working at our firm. My partner and I, it just killed us. One, losing our livelihood, but two, having to let all these people go without, when the markets crashed, it took less than 30 days for billions of dollars to get wiped out of the market. And then the smaller guys like us, our brokerage was, one of the first to go. The big banks didn't fail until later in 2008 and 2009. But we got shut out. We couldn't fund any loans. It was just horrible. We lost everything.
That's brutal.
Yeah, it really was. The whole time, thinking, wow, what a loser. You had to do this to all these other people. We had to let them go. What's going to happen in their lives? And all these things just kept drilling on me. And just, I was beating myself up so bad. I kept drinking. I kept started using really hard. I was still spending money like it was water. Like I was still making 30 and 40 grand a month. Um, the money ran out. Drinking just spiraled out of control. I just gave up. It's sad to say, and I'm not proud of it, but hey, I ended up on the streets, bouncing around at first from friends' places, living on their couches, living in their garages. I ended up in a tent. Everything just blew up on me. Everything I knew, everything I had was just gone. My self-respect, my dignity, just out the window. So I found what little solace I could find in a bottle. A few years later, I remember waking up one day and apparently I had been down. I made it down to Mexico. I was in Baja, and I had no idea where I was. I realized it was Mexico. I didn't know where I was because I did a lot of traveling when I was making money. And I just was wandering around there for about a month. I ran into some people that said they knew me. I had no idea. Um, I began to question because I didn't know how I got there. When I got there, I started questioning who I was, and the voices by then, fueled by all the booze and God knows whatever else I put in my body, just it was full time, just constant. And, the shadows were no longer shadows. They were full blown hallucinations. I was seeing, people, devils, little monsters running around. I knew at the time that even though my mind was so messed up, I knew these things weren't real, but it was impossible for me to channel them away and say, you're just, that's your mind. These things are now becoming reality for me. And I just couldn't deal with it anymore. I was scared. The first time in my life, these voices and these things that I was seeing actually scared me because I couldn't determine what was real and what was not. I was it my how did these imaginations now become these evil creatures that were constantly following me, and then turned on me, telling me I was worthless and yeah, you're right, you should kill yourself, and look at all the people you screwed and all the people that you let down, and it was just boom, 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 constant. I remember somehow I made it back up into San Diego. Don't remember any of that. I had a bit of clarity, and I locked myself in a motel room. Just wanted to end it all. So this is it. So I took a whole bunch of drugs and drank a couple bottles of vodka, and there I was. It was supposed to be over. And fortunately, that didn't work either. I woke up in a psych ward, and at that point I began to, after drying out for 14 days, I think it took almost 21 days, and a ton of different types of medications that they had to fill me through to just detox me and then try to keep my mind from exploding on me. I had some clarity, and I began my search for sobriety. And I met a doctor that ended up, we still have a relationship, professional relationship. And she was, after a bunch of different doctors came through trying to figure me out, this gal was willing to tell me how it was, shoot straight, none of this mumbo jumbo, no BS. Just, hey man, you delirium was not only fueled or possibly caused by the drug abuse and the alcohol abuse, but on top of that, from what I'm reading, everything you've told me over the last 21 days, we need to start looking at some treatments for you for your schizophrenia and your bipolar disorders. And I said, well, that's interesting. I'm almost, I was 48 at the time, 40 something. I said, nobody's ever talked to me about this. How could this be an issue? But, we tracked back over my family tree, and, things started to make sense. She said, we need to look at, what's going on in your life, but, take a look at your family and find out, share with me what, if any of them had these drinking problems and these weird, as we call them, psychoses back then. So yeah, everything started to come together. She got me finally on a pretty good combination of medications. And I got to tell you, it wasn't an easy road. It was brutal, getting clean. More importantly, I think it was so tough to get off the booze and the drugs that it just anchored such a sickness in me that helped me get and stay sober. I was so sick that the pain was just too unbearable. That I realized that, and I promised myself I'd never go back. And since, I've never picked up another drink. I did continue to smoke cigarettes, but I even stopped smoking cigarettes 3 years ago. So I know it's been a crazy ride. I got to tell you that.
Mark, when that doctor told you that you had schizophrenia and bipolar, did that shake you to your core, or were you like, oh, so that's it? Or, how did that impact you?
Yeah, well, at the time, I never even heard of any of that because that just wasn't part of my vernacular. It wasn't part of my world. I just, when I saw people that were, chasing butterflies on the streets, I would think, oh, poor guy, let me give him a couple $100 and see if I can get him in a hotel room and get him some food. That was my extent of mental challenges or mental disabilities. So nah, it didn't affect me. I didn't put any stigma on it. I realized that I'm a pretty pragmatic person. Um, and I always knew throughout the years that those voices I heard and the things that I saw and the people that weren't really there, I knew it wasn't real. But it all made sense to me as I read and researched and discovered more and more about what schizophrenia really is, how bipolar disorders achieve their hold on folks that are afflicted with bipolar and even schizophrenia. That's what drove me to go back to school because I wanted to learn the psychology of addiction. I wanted to learn how um, I went wrong, and it turned into a quest for knowledge that I realized that you know I didn't do anything wrong. Of course, nobody sets out in fifth and sixth grade to start drinking beer and maybe smoking a joint. They don't set out and say, "Well, my goal in life is going to be to be homeless and running around screaming at butterflies out on the street." So, um, yeah, it wasn't a stigma. I was pleased. I welcomed the news because I knew that it wasn't just me. Other people were having these challenges, and I wanted to learn how I could be better at one realizing those signs in other people, so I could try to help them move forward, help them realize themselves that it's not their fault. And there are things that we can do to help them because I'm living proof that you know pharmacology has helped me get a handle on my brain, get a handle on my life, and as they say, put my boots back on and get out there and start helping other people.
How did your family and your friends react when you shared your diagnoses with them?
Um, you know, as with most people that become addicts, they end up losing all their friends and they end up losing all their family. For me, I didn't get my family involved in any of my drug or alcohol abuses. I just stopped contacting them, and that was part of the mistake I made. Um, I'm thinking, well, I don't even want them to know about the state I'm in because it's embarrassing, and two, I don't want to be that person that ends up screwing over their family. I just won't be that guy. So that wasn't an issue. My friends, it turns out, when the chips were down and I lost everything, I really didn't have friends. They were around me for all the money that I could make them and or give them through jobs and working at my firms. And so it wasn't a real big deal. But when I decided to get clean, I finally reached back out to my family and I told them, listen, I sat down with my dad, my brothers. I said, here's what's been going on in my life over the last 15 years. And this is what's happened. This is what I've done. This is how I'm getting better. And with the help of these diagnoses from my doctor and the medications that she's got me on, and of course I've been stable on my meds for about 4 years before I went back home. Um, yeah, they welcomed me. They understood. They knew that something was wrong, obviously, because they saw me drinking like a fish, and then I just disappeared for 15 years. They had no idea if I was alive. It was horrible for them. The time I tried to stay away from them was, well, my brothers told me that it was even worse for him not knowing if I was alive than knowing if I was a drunk. So in retrospect, a lot of things I should have changed or should have never done, but they were more than willing to, let me move back in. My brother let me move back in with them while I regrouped. Um, so like I said, I've always had a great relationship with my family. So they weren't judgmental. They were very, very supportive. And I gotta say that if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't have been able to find a reason to keep going.
That's wonderful. Not everybody has that luck with their family. There's so many people that when they share that they have a mental illness, their family just kind of shuns them. So I'm so happy that you didn't have that experience.
Yeah, it is, I even with all the things I've gone through and the craziness that my life has my life road and trails have traveled. I mean, I'm blessed. I really am. I mean, for some reason, God didn't want me to die that night in that hotel room. I was able to stay alive through all of this. And my family was, as long as they knew that I was going to be sober, stay sober, and make something out of my life again. They always had faith in me, and they said, "We got you," and that's something that a lot of people don't have.
Mhm.
And a lot of people ask me this because Avery, you and I know each other. I think you got an idea who I am, the type of person I am. I will help anybody that I see that's in crisis, or I'll figure out a way to get them help. And that's because this is what I got from my family. Not just because I got all messed up, but from the time we were born, my family taught us to help everybody you can. It's part of my goal in life is to help save a life every year. And now I find myself looking every day to look for those people that may be in distress and see what I can do to help. Just let them know that I'm here, and even though you don't know me, um, I'd like to hear your story, and maybe I can give you some ideas on what we can do to help you get better. So
That is one of the best goals, honestly, that I've ever heard. And I love that you have it every year that you want to save a life. And I wish that we were all like that. I mean, you have inspired me. I mean, that has encouraged me to have a similar goal, but I wish everybody had that goal.
well,
It's good.
you can't save a life every day. Um, you maybe can't save a life every year, but if you set out a goal to be a better person than you were yesterday, and not better than somebody that you see on the streets, or better than a coworker, or better than your spouse, be a better person than you were yesterday. You will find that you look outside of yourself and say, how can I help other people? Even a smile that actually means something, a good morning, that, how was your weekend? Not just passing by. How was your weekend? Did you go fishing again, Mark? You know, did you go out with your dogs? Because I love my dog and I go fishing a lot. And um, that's something that means something to me. That they actually paid attention to the last time they asked me what I did. So it's those little things that can make a huge difference in somebody's life that you may not recognize, that you see every day. You may not recognize the signs that they're showing, or the small subtleties that could introduce you to opening up a question. Are you doing okay? I mean, really, are you doing okay? And ask those questions of people, even if you don't know them. You'll be surprised. You may find a new friend out of it. Worst case scenario, they say, "Hey, man, I'm cool. Don't worry about me." But at least you reached out to them later in the day. They go, "Hey, that was pretty cool." Like, I just out of the blue says, "Hey, man, what's going on?" Those little things make a difference in people's lives. And the more that we can do that as individuals, I know it sounds cheesy, but that may spread out. And as they say, pay it forward. They'll say the same thing to somebody else one day in their life. And that may be the difference between somebody thinking, man, my life's over. Nobody loves me. Nobody gives a crap about me. And then all of a sudden, some guy's walking down the street says, "Hey, what's up? You doing okay? Can I help? You looking for something?" And just get them involved in a conversation, because that may be the person that day of that year that you are able to save their life. And that's strong for me. It's just huge. It may not happen every day, may not happen every year, but if you look to try to help somebody, you never know. That person could be the next one on that list that turns around and starts helping somebody else.
That's
And
right.
one day we're all helping each other again, just like the old days. Love thy neighbor is gone. We got to get back to that. We got to help our people.
So share with us a little bit about your current career path. What are you doing now? Because you're not in finances anymore.
No, I spent my entire career in finance. I was a commodities broker for about 10 or 12 years. I went from there. Commodities are, if you don't know, they're like stocks, but we trade in physical assets, futures on those, from grains to energy, oil, gas, gold, platinum, you name it, corn futures. From there, I went into mortgage banking. And I realized after, of course, I got clean that I had spent almost 30 years, a little over, just taking from people, right? It was all about the commission. The more money I would generate, the more money I would make. And that's not a great way to go through life. Let me tell you, it takes its toll on everybody that you've ever worked for, because all you're doing is trying to get money out of it, right? But it took a toll on me personally, spiritually. My soul was just destroyed because I was living off of other people's money. So when I got clean, as I said, I decided to go back to school. I got my degree in behavioral sciences. I wanted to study what the psychology is behind people and what drives them to become addicted, what drives them to become anything, any measure of life. That was important to me to understand myself and to try to figure out how to help more people. So I spent, 3 years interning, working in various sober living houses. I was a counselor, an SUD counselor, substance use disorders counselor, certified as that. But I realized that I wasn't reaching enough people. I'm one of those guys that I like to be in front of people. The more the merrier. And I started looking into other areas that I could spread my word, so to speak. And that area was looking into public health. I got into public health 2.5 years ago, I guess. And that was right at the beginning of our COVID-19 nightmare that we're still dealing with. I worked in San Bernardino County for about 2 years, and I moved up here, of course. That's where I met you, Avery. I work for county health, and within health services, I'm able to reach hundreds of more people throughout my days, my years, than I could individually counseling somebody. I'm here to make the most difference to the mass amount of people that I can. And so that's what I'm doing. I work in public health. I look for ways to increase health equity in the lives of everybody within my community.
And I would say that you do an amazing job of that.
Well, it's fortunate that I dig this, right? I love people. I still believe in people. I still believe that we have a way forward. I believe wholeheartedly that everybody's life is worth anything and everything. We all have so much potential. All we need is somebody to help us find that potential. If we can't find it ourselves, I should be somebody that they can reach out to, help them, steer them in a direction. Whether somebody wants to get information on going back to school, I can help them with that. If somebody needs help on getting clean, I may be able to help them with that. My focus is to try to find every way possible I can that if somebody comes to me and says, Mark, I got a friend, quote, air quotes, I got a friend that's been drinking too much and they're really depressed. where do you think I should send them, or what can we do? What do you, any ideas? I want to know that I can help that person. I want to know that I can give them direction. I want to know that I can save a life. So my focus is to learn as much as I can, meet as many people as I can, like you, Avery, that have a finger on the pulse of the community, that knows that I'm here to help in any way, shape, or form, whether it's handing out food packets or working at children's fair or working here in my community outreach projects with, my media campaigns. It's all about helping people. And it's given me hope in life. It's given me a new goal, and it's helped me focus my power and my strengths to help other people. So like I said, it's been a crazy ride, but it's been so awesome. Um, I'm proud of where I am now in life. Um, of course, all my dignity is back. I'm a bit arrogant, but that's just me. I'm a Leo. I think the world revolves around me, and I know that with those thoughts, it can offend people sometimes, but I believe I can help people. So yeah, um, I think a lot about myself because I've gone through a lot, and I think I can help a lot of people because I want to help people. All
Mhm.
you need is the desire to help, and you can make a difference in somebody else's life. I know this.
Yes, and you're definitely making that difference in our community. And like you said, like affecting more people, reaching out to more people, having more access. And I think that's key in what you do. So
Absolutely, absolutely.
what is one thing, or what are some things that you'd like to share with people who might be suffering from either symptoms of mental illness or substance use? They're really struggling. What could you say that might inspire them to that they can recover like you have, because you are just such an amazing story of recovery that that's why I was so excited that you were willing to share your story, because I just know your story is going to really inspire folks that are struggling.
Well, Avery, I appreciate that. And just so everybody knows, Avery and I just met. I think I've been here, I'm on my 8th month now in Tama County. I moved from Southern California all the way up here because I wanted to make a difference in a small community, because I believe that's where everything starts. Our small communities fuel um, the growth of our nation and the growth of our love for our neighbors. I'm not saying that all is lost in these big cities or the big environments. There's still things that can be done, but I wanted to make a difference here, so I chose to move up here to Tama County. Um, what can I say to other folks? Just know that, I mean, if you need to find something to believe in, and if you don't have family or friends that are there, like I had my family that were willing to take me back and help me move forward, know that there's just a ton of opportunity out there, that you can reach out to us here, or Avery Behavioral Health. Um, I'm a big proponent of calling 211.
Mhm.
That's the United Way. Anything you need, I'm telling you, if you just need to talk to somebody, they'll put you in contact with somebody. Pick up your cell phone, dial 211. Boom, you're in business. If you're in distress, if you need food, shelter, if you're in an abusive relationship, I mean, 211 is the hub, so to speak. Um, I got to say, it's better than calling 911. But if you're in distress and something's going on, just reach out to somebody. These cell phones aren't just for texting and saying, hey, to all your friends. I mean, you call 211 and you're in business. You can get a referral to anything you're having challenges with. Look to your local spiritual leaders, if that's your gig. Um, I've got my own higher power. But if I've told people in my counseling sessions, hey, if all you can believe in is that doorknob or your puppy or your cat, then believe in that. Find that first building block is all you need. You set one down and then you put another block on top of it. And then you start building your house. It can be done. I know this. The biggest struggle, of course, is if you're having challenges with substance abuse, you need help with that. I did it the wrong way, locking myself in a hotel room and just trying to kill myself with the booze and the drugs. And, that's not the way to do it. Fortunately, I failed at that too. So find myself here with that. But I would say the best advice is just to reach out to somebody, ask somebody for help. There's a ton of us out here that have been through what maybe some of the stuff you're going through. And that's true for any mental health challenges. If you're hearing voices or you're seeing things that just absolutely aren't there, I always say better living through pharmacology. I got an awesome doctor. She never BS'd me. And we tried a bunch of different stuff, but finally got me on a good combination, of my meds. And like I said, I've been stable on my meds for many years now. Gosh, what am I, 58? So yeah, 15 years approximately. And I'm living again. So just remember, life is not lost. You got people that can help you. And if you find yourself wandering down the street one day and you're feeling lonely, or you got voices telling you things that aren't right, ask somebody. Stop somebody on the street, step into a health clinic, talk to somebody. The first step is to share your situation, because at that point, hopefully, somebody will stop and say, okay, see what we can do. I know this guy named Mark. Let's give him a call and see what he can do. See if he's got some ideas. I know somebody named Avery. Maybe Avery can help us out here. Hold on a second. Pick up that phone, call 211, call me, call Avery, call somebody. Everybody knows somebody, whether it's your pastor at a church, or even if you don't go to that church, you can always walk in and start talking to somebody. Doesn't mean you got to tithe for the rest of your life. People are here for you. People are here to try to help. I don't know if that answered your question, Avery.
It does. It does. I love the 211 push, because you can get any information you need there. Like if you're having thoughts of suicide and you want the National Suicide Hotline number, you can call 211 and they will hook you up. And that number, by the way, is 1-800-273-TALK, talk. And if you want the texting number, you can text help to 741-741. And our local resource, our community crisis response unit, that's 530-527-5637. So call 211. They have all those numbers. You don't have to memorize them. Put those numbers in your phone, so if you need them, you have access to them. So you can save a life every year, or possibly save your own life, right? Yes.
Yeah, that's really cool. Well, it's that 211 to be, it's one of the greatest things that our country has ever put together. I mean, you can dial 211 from anywhere in the United States. And even if you find yourself wandering around the deserts of Mexico, your cell phone, you can dial 211 and it'll get you someplace. It's a great service, and I can't tout that enough. I mean, where in life was 211 back in the 50s, when people didn't know that they could get help? I mean, it saves lives. It really does. Even if you just need somebody to talk to, we've got friendship lines available with that. And again, that's through the United Way. United Way is a non-judgmental, they're there to help, always helping people. And I can leave you all with this. I guess, Avery, unless you have any other questions, I just know that walking through life wrapped up in your own business may keep you out of trouble, but it's definitely not going to fulfill you moving forward. Helping other people is part of human nature. Our social outreach and our social gatherings is something that we're born with. That's something that we need to do. So look to help other folks, and you'll find out that it increases your life. It increases the love you have for yourself, your family, because you realize that you can help outside of what you normally do. Sit down and talk with somebody. Look for that person that, it looks a little off, and maybe they're having a crappy day. If somebody just says, hey, what's happening? You okay? Anything we can do? And you'll be amazed. One day you're going to end up saving a life,
Amen.
Mm.
I love it. Thank you so much, Mark. I really, really appreciate you and your sharing your story and your beautiful words of wisdom.
Well, I don't know about wisdom, but gosh, I've sure traveled down a lot of roads and I've seen a lot of crazy stuff. But yeah, I'm here telling my story, and if it helps anybody, I'll continue to tell these stories for you, Avery, and anybody else that'll listen.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
All right.